Hello, my name is Casey Kelly and I'm the Rocketpreneur. Listen, I'm here to help you make, manage, and maintain your money through a spiritual and financial growth mindset. I became a biblical millionaire by 29 years old, and I'm here to help you do the same. What's up? Good morning. Facebook. Might be a little bit choppy. Forgive me for that. I am out in Rancho Santa Fe, California. I am taking a little bit of a life sabbatical in some ways, but I could not miss the opportunity to be able to do a Facebook Live and share the Rocket Preacher weekly business sermon this week. Today we're going to be pretty punctual, pretty focused on talking about thankfulness. Listen, every week I try and go live and share practical life and business tips based on what I learned growing a company to more than $20 million in sales over 7 years. I grew 12 retail locations in multiple states. I had hundreds of team members over the years. I had to learn a lot of hard things, and I put the blood, sweat, and tears in, and I want to teach you what to and not to do so that you can reap the rewards and benefits of life and have both faith and financial success. Listen, my objective is to help you build spiritual and financial wealth. I'm not a perfect man, but I believe in a perfect God. So listen, let's jump right in today. Listen, in 1 Thessalonians 5:17, it says that we should pray continually, right? And so this morning I woke up and I was reading my Bible and I started thinking, I need to pray continually. I need to grow. I need to learn. But I missed the second verse that comes next, right? 5:18 actually says, or into 19 and 17, 18, 19 says, that we should be thankful in all things, for it's the will of God in Christ Jesus for your life. So let me say that again. God's will for your life is that you are thankful in all things, not just in some things, but in all things, which means if we're going to be people who are thankful and thrive, we have to have an attitude of gratitude, right? And this is not a cliche. Listen, you hear me say these different things because they become mental sound bites that we have to say to ourselves. Am I being thankful today? What am I thankful for? Listen, I want to talk about some serious trials. I want to talk about one particular trial that came to mind as I was thinking today. When I had to go to China for the first time with my friend David, and we had to figure out how to build this big deal, right? We'd landed this massive deal with Ashley Furniture. We were going to be selling them about 7,000 pairs of headphones that we needed to have procured from Shenzhen in China. And they wanted their logos on the side of them, and they wanted from promotional usage. And we had to go get all the brand rights and licensing and all this chaos, right? And so here we are with $1 million deal, right? A $1 million check that's pending. And they wire us 40% of the money. So into our bank account, we got $400,000. We're sitting here going, well, the cost of this operation was about 45%. So it's going to cost $450,000. And so we had almost all the cash that we needed, but we needed to negotiate with our Chinese suppliers and vendors to convince them that we only had like a couple $100,000 we could give them now and the remainder once they began to ship, and so that we could just cash flow from the furniture company, right? That's typically how it works. If you don't do that, then you find yourself potentially over leveraged and upside down. But there was a real risk, because if we were going to send over $500,000 almost over to Shenzhen, China, we needed to go to Shenzhen, at least this was our belief, and we'd never been there before. We needed to go to China so that we could be protected. Because if Ashley Furniture gave me almost $500,000 in cash wired into my bank account, and I wasn't willing to go get boots on the ground, even though I'd never been there, then it was not going to go well if the money never came back. And I had never met these suppliers in person. We happened to find these suppliers. We began talking for a month or two. We had relationships with them. And we thought, you know what? We should go to China. Okay? So here's the first thing that we faced. David and I just thought it would be no burden or no issue to just get on a plane and fly to China. So as we get on a plane, we fly from Utah out to Washington, D.C. because we thought, oh, it was the route you needed to go. We didn't even look at the map. Geography is clearly not our strength, right? And so we fly out to Washington, D.C., and we're like, oh, we'll have a day over, a layover. But we find out that a passport is not enough to get into Shenzhen. To get into China, you need a visa, right? In order to stay as long as we were going to stay and work out these deals, you needed to have a visa. You also needed to be invited, so you needed to have a letter from the supplier inviting you. All of this chaos. But listen, David and I got there, realized that there was a consulate that we could go to in Washington, D.C. that would allow us to get our visa same day. At least that's what they said. So we show up, we're excited, we move the flight the next day. We're like, we can make this work, no problem. We'll see Washington, D.C. downtown. We'll see the history of America, and we'll also go pick up our visa. So Dave and I show up. Nobody speaks English in the entire consulate. It's a Chinese consulate. Nobody knows what we're trying to say. We're like, visa, we're trying to figure this out. We don't speak the language. There's these barriers. And I got to be honest with you, I was not very thankful in that moment. I was frustrated. I was like, man, what the freak? I just want to go to China. I just got to go take care of this deal. I want to make $1 million. Come on, get out of my way. And there were all these burdens, but you know what? I thought to myself, I remember now at that time thinking like, dude, you're the luckiest dude in the world. You're in Washington, D.C. right now. Your greatest burden is getting a visa into China. Okay, there are people who have a lot worse issues. And so I had a perspective change, I remember in that moment, and we became more patient. And then we get to the counter and the lady says to us, unfortunately, you can't get it same day. I don't know where you read that online, but we no longer do that. It's gonna take a 2 to 3 day process and we have to submit it. So here's David and I with the move flight. We already paid the change fees. This is thousands and thousands of dollars worth of flights, a couple $100s to change the flight. And we're thinking, we're going to have to spend another couple $100s to change our flight to China simply because we were not prepared, right? We hadn't thought ahead. And so we decided, well, we'll make a couple days out of it. So we ended up staying again in Washington, D.C. We saw a lot of cool sights. I'd never been there before. Saw the White House. I saw the Capitol. And it was a total blessing. But I want to truncate some of this to say we went back to pick up the visas to just find out that we were slightly delayed even more, another 4 or 5 hours. And in that moment, again, I just wanted to get pissed off. I wanted to be frustrated. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm just trying to go to Shenzhen, China. I'm just trying to go get this deal done. And here's David. David's super calm. He's like, it's cool, bro. Like, we're fine. No issues. Let's go get our passport pictures. Let's go take care of these different things. It'll be fun. Live in the moment. Enjoy the adventure. That's one of my friend's strengths. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's fine. And so we go and we wait a couple hours and we finally get our visa right in hand. We book a flight that day. We get on the plane and it turns out we have to fly 21 hours over to Shenzhen, right, with a couple connections. We've never done that before. We're in coach. I'm a 240-pound man. I've been losing weight now, but I was a big dude, and it was very difficult for me to be comfortable on this little coach plane flying for 19 hours as one of the legs, right? But I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, God, this sucks. I hate sitting in coach. This is the worst experience of my life. And I got to be real with you. My attitude this entire trip oscillated between foolishness, bitterness, frustration, unthankfulness, while missing the moment. And I look back on this moment because I've now been to Shenzhen 7 or 8 times. And each time that I've gone, I think about this particular situation where I was so frustrated we didn't have a visa, that I was so frustrated we had to stay in Washington and spend money, that I was so frustrated that we end up in coach and I'm this big dude sitting between some people while David's got somebody passed out on him, some Korean lady. And sorry, my mail keeps blowing up. But this Korean lady's falling asleep on David. And David's just chill. He was cool. He's like, dude, live in the moment. It's the adventure. And so there's these two sides that oscillate between us. When you look at David, my friend, and you look at me and the attitudes that we were cultivating in those moments. I'm bitter. I'm frustrated. I'm tired. I'm fat. I don't want to be in these seats anymore. I want to get out of here. And we land in Shenzhen. We get off the plane. And I'm like, oh, thank God. We're off the plane. We connected in Seoul, South Korea. And now we're on our way here and we're fine. We land and I realize our cell phone service doesn't work, because we didn't buy the roaming plan and the activation for it. Again, not prepared. And so we find ourselves without cell phone service in a country we've never been to before. Our suppliers don't know when we're going to land because it was my great idea. We'll just message them as soon as we land in Shenzhen. Okay, so listen. David and I spent the next 2 hours trying to get from the airport to our hotel, which turned out to be about 45 minutes away. It was a 45-minute drive. We had, again, geography not being either of our strengths. We've grown in that, but I got to tell you, about 5 years ago, we didn't know what we were doing. And so we land in this country. We're asking all the people around us, like, hey, can you help us? Can you help us? And although they may speak English, they chose not to speak it to us, right? And it's kind of like if I were to try to speak Spanish to you or French. I took 6 years of French, and I could speak it kind of well. But if I met someone who spoke French, I'd be like, well, bonjour. Right? I feel really weird. And I share this with you because we're facing these trials. We're facing these burdens. But listen, all along, we're literally in Shenzhen, China. I'm in China. I'm in a country I'd never been to, country that people dream of going to. I'm in this world, and all I can think about is how the hell do I get to my hotel? Right? I'm just being factual with you. And so as we started to process this, it took us 2 hours, like I said, to get to our hotel. We finally found a cab, somebody who spoke English over the phone, broken English, but spoke English, and they got us in the cab and they drove us. No seatbelts in the car. There was a 8-year-old boy jumping back and forth between the seats. I mean, the craziest experience. And we found ourselves with the suppliers. Now, I won't tell you the rest of the story because it's not relevant to the idea of thankfulness. But I'm greatly convicted today that when we face trials of many kinds in our lives, how do we respond? Not later, not after the fact, not post the situation, but in the moment. Like, I am thankful right now that I get to sit on this little slab of rock and talk to you. I am thankful in this moment. My attitude, because of circumstances like my first Shenzhen, China trip, has changed. And even today, as I woke up and I went on my prayer walk and I walked 3 miles in the middle of this place I've never been to. I thought I was going to get lost. I was thankful in the moment. I was thankful that the sun rose. I was thankful that there was air in my lungs. I was thankful that I could breathe. I was thankful that my life is so much more than the burdens, the trial, and the circumstances. And so what I want to challenge you with today is, what are you thankful for? If you could honestly say, this is one thing I'm thankful for, what would it be? One of the things I'm most thankful for is that I have the ability to travel all over the world. I've pretty much been to every state. I've been to multiple countries. I've been all over. I've been blessed beyond belief. It was my great dream as a young boy to be a touring musician, and I've ended up touring more than I ever did as a musician, right? And so I share that with you because if you are not thankful in the circumstances, you're going to miss life. Life is going to flash by you at full speed. One of the greatest things that people regret on their deathbed, I was talking to my friend the other day about this, is that they worked too much and they didn't enjoy their life enough. They said they didn't spend enough time with those that they cared about. And so, again, I want to challenge you today to have an attitude of gratitude, to become more thankful, to learn from my story. If you ever find yourself on a 19-hour flight to Shenzhen, China, rejoice. Be thankful. Be thankful. Listen, we were going to close $1 million deal. You should be excited. I made a couple $100,000 off that deal, and I mean that in humility. I was not thankful for the good things. And so one thing also I want to challenge you is all circumstances have good and bad, all of them. And it takes our attitude to intersect at the cross, if you will, of our life, this crossroads where we have to decide, are we going to react favorably or poorly? Are we going to have a good attitude or a bad attitude? Are we going to be thankful in the moment, or are we going to reject this thankfulness, the gift that we've been given, which is life? Listen, life is short. We're all going to die. It may be today, it may be tomorrow. What are you going to be thankful for? So hopefully you learned a little something about that, the idea of thankfulness. As a business takeaway, listen, make sure that you always get the other side to pay for the deal. Like I told you, get enough deposit you need to be able to pay for the deal so you can enjoy the trip and rejoice. Listen, don't find yourself over leveraged financially. From a business side, your attitude of optimism will become the determining factor of whether or not you have financial success in business. Level 5 leadership, as Good to Great talks about by Jim Collins, is the idea that you are eternally optimistic about life and you believe when no one else does. I have faced so many life trials, times when I didn't have a single dime in our bank account in order to make payroll. And in faith, I had to pull out my credit card and I had to make the payment for payroll, believing that the next right thing would happen, believing that $1 million payout would come again and again and again if I did the next right thing. So today, 2 takeaways. Be thankful, do the next right thing. Thanks for watching. I hope you have an amazing day.